When George Harrison opted for a change of lifestyle, he bought a piece of paradise in a remote corner of Hawaii. But now the former Beatle is getting anything but peace and quiet, all because of nosy neighbours.
Welcome to Maui, Hawaii's most enchanting paradise. It's a peaceful place. Locals call it the hang-loose capital of the world. But now some of those laid-back islanders are fighting mad, and they're leaving the sunny beaches for an artificially lit courtroom. All because a certain Beatle is telling them to get back. Yes, George Harrison, the quiet Beatle, suddenly can't seem to keep his mouth shut about a tiny path that leads to the ocean.
I'm a little annoyed. I don't like it.
It all began some years ago when George Harrison bought 61 acres on the northeast coast of Maui in order to get away from it all. George spent years building a house in this tropical jungle, as far away from civilization as he thought he could get. Little did he know that the house he built is only 20 metres from something called an easement or footpath. It's a footpath that his inland neighbours have been using for years to get out to the point.
We didn't sneak in there in the middle of the night and slide this easement under his house. We were there long before him.
But George says the neighbours trample his flower beds, make noise, peer in his windows and disrupt his much sought-after privacy.
And his security under the circumstances is very, very important. His best friend, John Lennon, was shot by a stranger. And the notion that people at any time of the day or night can come walking within 60 feet of his bedroom is just unacceptable.
From the path, while you're walking, there's probably 15 or 20 seconds or 30 seconds, something like that, that you can actually see his house. After you go down to the point, you can't see his house at all.
The long and winding road.
There it was, 16 kilometres from the town of Hana, out in the middle of nowhere, George Harrison's property. And you guessed it, spelled out in bold ink, a no trespassing sign and a gate complete with lock and key that blocks access to the best fishing spot on the island. And now George Harrison's neighbours are saying, George, you can't do that.
Oh, you can't do that.
My position in here is I have a legal right to go to the ocean. And it's a shame, but we have to take him to court to enforce our rights.
And so began the long and winding battle inside a courtroom. The neighbours arrive at every court date dressed in aloha t-shirts and thongs. Bill even represents himself.
Basically, he just figured we'd never be able to do anything about it, and fortunately, we were able to challenge him.
A Maui District Court judge has already decided that Bill and the others were guaranteed a footpath when they bought their property. So now George wants to move it, away from his house, away from the prying eyes of what he calls his nosy neighbours. The problem is, the proposed site for George's new path ends in a treacherous 60-metre cliff.
The other alternative isn't, I don't know, I'd say viable at all.
We can work it out. We can work it out.
And so the great battle with the Beatle continues. They're back in court soon, and George says if he doesn't win, he's packing his shorts and sunblock and moving back to foggy old England. And all this publicity was the last thing George Harrison wanted.
This whole proceeding is completely antithetical to the reason why he owns his property and why he uses it.
They say that region of Maui is so private that pizza is delivered by helicopter.